Many South Africans spent their Friday watching the chaotic Olympic Games opening, pondering one question: when will our country host these games? Well, the simple answer is that financially, it's not feasible. South Africa has previously hosted large sporting events, including the 1995 Rugby World Cup, the 1996 Africa Cup of Nations, replacing Kenya as the host, the 2010 FIFA World Cup, which is considered the best FIFA World Cup in history, the 2013 Africa Cup of Nations. The country certainly has the experience needed to host the Olympics. However, hosting the Olympics requires cities to have infrastructure and resources beyond what South Africa currently possesses. For example, in Paris, 10,500 athletes will compete in 329 events, with the Paralympics in August and September featuring 4,400 athletes in 549 events. The Olympics attract over 5 million attendees, and 15 million tourists are expected to visit Paris for the 2024 Games. More resources are needed to host the Games. Historically, the Olympics were mainly held in Europe, then the Americas, and more recently in Asia. However, the Olympic Games have never been held in Africa. In this video, I will explain why South Africa cannot host the Olympic flame, at least not within the next 2 decades.
We want the Olympics here in South Africa.
Organizing the Olympic Games is an expensive endeavor, and pinpointing the exact cost for a city or country is challenging. Sydney spent $2.4 billion at the time, and 15 new venues were erected. Beijing spent $6.8 billion, but building roads, stadiums, subway lines, and airport terminals ballooned the amount to $45 billion. Brazil's initial budget was around $10 billion, but the final estimated costs soared to $25 billion, with some projects remaining incomplete. Construction issues often lead to budget overruns. New public transportation and related infrastructure developments are necessary. Additionally, the inclusion of more sporting events over the years requires more venues and housing for athletes. Therefore, finding a definitive cost for organizing past editions is difficult, as different figures are reported for the same edition, and some costs are underreported. The organization of the Olympic Games involves 2 major types of investment: stadiums, sports centers, Olympic villages, and competition venues. Urban transformation projects, such as new airports, metro systems, and improvements to parks and gardens, which host cities typically undertake. What is clear is that hosting the Olympics is a costly project.
We've seen costs really explode over the last couple of decades, particularly for the Summer Games, and that starts really from the very beginning of the process. Preparing the bid itself is expensive, with hosts spending millions on consultants. Then once the Games actually begin, their operational costs, security in particular, and when they're over, there's the cost of maintaining all that new infrastructure.
In addition to the high costs of organizing the world's premier sporting event, there are often other issues, such as cases of corruption and cost overruns. In some recent instances, the final cost of the Games has exceeded the original budget by more than double. Revenue generated from ticket sales, sponsorships, and TV licensing deals typically covers only a quarter of what host nations spend. The money spent on improving infrastructure for a hypothetical new Games in South Africa could be viewed as an investment rather than an expense. 2 South African cities are frequently mentioned as potential hosts when discussing this possibility. The first option is Durban, known for its perfect year-round weather. Hosting the Olympics here could jumpstart Durban's growth, revive tourism to pre-COVID levels, and attract major foreign investment. The long-term impact on the city's tourism could be significant. However, Durban would require extensive work, costing hundreds of billions of rand due to its decline in recent years. The beaches are polluted.
Umhlanga is one of a number of Durban beaches closed over recent sewage leaks. The eThekwini municipality saying it's busy repairing infrastructure, with residents and tourists calling on officials to fast-track that process.
And corruption is rampant. Hosting the Olympics could exacerbate corruption and nepotism, providing little lasting benefit to citizens. The expense could be better spent on reducing poverty and improving education and healthcare. The second option is Cape Town. Cape Town offers a stunning natural setting for the Olympics. It has excellent infrastructure, public transportation, and the capability to host the event. Cape Town has hosted World Cup matches, regular soccer and rugby games, and the 2023 Formula E. Existing facilities could be used, with some venues remodeled. However, the long-term impact on tourism would be minimal since Cape Town is already the second-best city in the world. The main issue is the weather during the Summer Olympics, which is typically cold and rainy in Cape Town, potentially making the event experience unpleasant. However, the timing of the Olympics can be adjusted based on the host country's climate. For example, the 1956 Melbourne Olympics were held in December due to seasonal differences, and the 2000 Sydney Games were in September. If the Olympics were hosted in South Africa outside of Durban, they could be scheduled for late fall, which is spring in South Africa, similar to how the Qatar World Cup was moved to fall. And Cape Town actually applied to host the 2004 Olympic Games and came very close to winning it. Veterans might remember those Cape Town 2004 t-shirts. However, the city did not bid for the 2008, 2012, 2016, or 2020 Games. For 2024, only 2 cities submitted bids, leading to Paris being awarded the 2024 Games and Los Angeles the 2028 Games. The fact that even first-world cities are withdrawing their bids highlights how financially challenging it is to host the Olympics. One might argue that South African cities could split the events, with Cape Town, Durban, and possibly Johannesburg sharing the costs. However, this would diminish the excitement, as each city has a distinct feel and vibe. The Olympic Games are a once-in-a-generation opportunity for a city to shine. While the competition to host them used to be fierce, interest has been declining. This is because the Games are not only a sporting event, but also a commercial and geopolitical one. No city in South Africa can handle the massive debt associated with hosting the Olympics. In countries that have hosted the Games, railway projects have often been seen as failures, and stadiums sit empty, costing tens of millions to maintain. If the Games were held in Cape Town, the city would likely rely on the national government to cover the costs, even though the long-term benefits would mainly go to the city itself. This could lead to severe financial strain and push the country into deeper poverty. Therefore, no city in South Africa is currently capable of hosting the Olympic Games, at least not within the next 2 decades.